Hey, so when does it become important to know your why, or why does your why become important? So it's all well and good to know you need to exercise, and maybe what you do is you make that New Year's resolution and you get started, and then all of a sudden it's February. Life happens and it just gets a little bit put on the backside, right? And so it doesn't happen, or it's not as consistent as it used to be. And so what's really important here is to ask yourself, like, why? Just why is your health and your fitness important to you? Because when you can really, really delve into why it's important and really get that heart-centered approach to it, then it keeps you consistent with doing those exercises, because you know why you're doing it. And so you get to choose each and every day what you do and how you do it. Now, I know life can be chaotic and there can be a lot going on, but even 5 minutes workout, 10 minutes workout is better than no working out at all. Because you know what? We know that all of these preventable diseases, the best thing that you can do to help yourself is exercise. And so what we want to do is we want to break that cycle of having life get in the road all the time. And how we do that is to really understand why it's important to us. So today, what I want to do is I want to introduce you to the lovely Sue Longcurrick. Now, she is a woman who is in her 60s, and she knows why her health, her fitness, her well-being is important to her. She's a woman who started exercising in her 50s. She's a woman who decided she wanted to do a marathon at 55, and she did it successfully. And I might add that Sue also understands that strength training helps her do the things that she loves and enjoys and what is mattering most to her in her life. And I know she's got some grandkids, and I know that she loves playing with them. So she's not the grandmother sitting on the sidelines. She is the grandmother getting in there and getting involved. So she's a woman after my own heart, because that's exactly what I love doing too. So let's welcome Sue to our chat today. Hey Sue, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Hello, Peter. Hello, everyone.
Awesome stuff. So great to have you here, Sue, because I know that your health and your fitness and your well-being is really, really important to you, and I know that you focus on it. But I want to take a step back, Sue, and I want to think about it from this perspective. Like, when you were growing up, did you ever see anybody around you exercising? Did you know what a workout was? Paint us a picture. What was life all about for you?
Okay, well, I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, and
Mm-hmm.
no, we didn't know what workouts were back then. Mum used to take us to ballet. The girls did ballet, and
Okay.
I think the boys might have. I don't even know what the boys did. I think my brother did tennis, but there was no sort of there were no gyms around really, and if they
Mm.
were, I think it was mainly for men. I don't think women started working out in gyms until quite late in the piece, and so for me,
Yeah.
there I wouldn't have known what strength training or any sort of athletic type exercise was. You might see it on the Olympics or that sort of thing, but it didn't resonate with me because it wasn't in my circle or in my life. So that's how it was when
Mm.
I was growing up.
Yeah. And Sue, from the perspective of your parents, were they active people, or, they were just busy with life, and, maybe you had a veggie garden out the back or something like that? What was it like for you?
All right. Well, no, they weren't they didn't do dedicated exercise, but we didn't own a
Mm-hmm.
car. So therefore we walked everywhere. And mum
Mm-hmm.
you know, Dad would walk to the bus stop and catch the bus and train to wherever he worked and then back again. And so he'd leave home at 5 and probably not get home till after 6 of a day. So not much there. Mum was a stay-at-home mum, but she would, you know, walk us to school and walk everywhere. And I think that for them, it was more about the daily movement came from doing the housework. And of course, you know, they didn't have all the modern conveniences that we have today. You know, we had a washing machine. Well, she had a boiler at first, and then she moved to a washing machine that had a wringer, you know, where you put the clothes through. But there was no dryers. There was nothing like that. So hers was, you know, the functional stuff, the hanging out, the washing, the bending, the lifting, and that sort of thing. So no traditional exercise, for want of a better word. It was more just what they did in the day. They were a lot more active, perhaps. They didn't sit down to watch TV till, you know, late in the evening. And I rarely saw Mum sit down and relax. She was always cleaning or doing something, you know. So that was what they did.
Funny you mentioned that wringer washing machine, Sue. When I first had my twin boys, I had a wringer washing machine. So you can imagine I was churning out something like 60 cloth nappies every day through that wringer washing machine. So you certainly got a bit of a workout. Yeah, and it's really good to actually reflect back on that, because if you think about it, our parents or our grandparents, you know, generally as a rule, if they had a car, it was one car. So someone was always getting on public transport or walking to where they had to go. So yes, definitely life was a lot more active when we were younger, just in that incidental type of way, as opposed to that structured way. I remember when I first came across exercise for myself, I had actually had my boys, so that's in the 80s by then. And what happened was my mother said, do you want to go to an exercise session? And I, you know, like if anyone knew my mother, they would know that that was just so out of the box for her. There is no way. She's an obese woman, so she is not somebody who would normally exercise. And I said yes. And I went along with her, and I tell you what, it was in a church hall. So it wasn't in a gym, it was a church hall. And yeah, it was just crazy. We only ever went once, I might add. All right. So you were a ballet girl then, by the sounds of things. How long did you do ballet for in your life?
Well, I actually did it up until my teens, and then I actually had a ballet school. I started one when I was still at school and I was 14, and I carried that on until probably for about 10 years, and then we moved up to Queensland. So I then changed roles and became in a sedentary role, which was in an office environment. So from being most of my life up until then was sort of active. It wasn't, you know, I was teaching classes or I was doing them as I was growing up, and then I had the kids and I was still trying to teach as well. And then that all changed when we moved up here, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to start up again. It's just too hard. And so I had, when I left school, I'd done a secretarial course because you had to have something to, you know, in case things didn't work out. So I just sort of went into office work. And so that was a lot of sitting and, you know, it was a totally different lifestyle then.
Yeah. And so you've gone from being fairly active to then having your children and then getting this sedentary job. So was there anything playing out in your life that you were starting to notice about, you know, little tiny messages that maybe your body was sending you?
No, No, I think, well, not quite at that time, but what
Mm-hmm.
happened was, I suppose with my weight as well, growing up, I was a bit of a tubby child, and then,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course we all think we're overweight when we're in high school, but of course when you
Yeah.
look back, you think, oh, I wasn't really. That's a bad body
No.
image coming into our mind. But it was more
Yeah.
about, I think for me, I was still running around after the kids, and then I went through a divorce and all of that sort of thing. So there was a lot of mental stress. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was just taking it all in and just trying to keep up day to day. And I think, I didn't really think about myself. I just get up and push through the day, do what I had to do, run the kids here and there, and sort of, you're not thinking about how your body is going. And I had a family history, as you know. I've had 3 family members now that have passed away with cancer. Dad had heart disease. So I did have that, but I wasn't even thinking about those things. I was just
Mm-hmm.
focusing on getting through a day. And I think I was still okay. I sort of had a base fitness there, but what did change, I
Mm-hmm.
think, was I started to, I don't know, just feel a bit sluggish. It was more into my 40s, I think, because up until that
Yeah.
time, I think I was sort of cheating it a bit, or you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
getting
I
away
do
with a
know what
few
you mean.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
getting away with things without having to do too much. And then once you hit, got into my 40s, I started to,
Yeah.
things were a bit harder, and I just wasn't really consistent with any form of exercise. I should have known better, but
Mm.
just life was just getting in the way. And I'd try something for a while, you'd try the aerobics, or you'd try this and you'd try
Yeah.
that, and nothing would stick consistently. When I look back now, it's only since I've turned 50 that I have been really consistently exercising in some form of another. So that's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
14 years, which is really, I'm 64. So there was a lot of time when I wasn't doing much. But yeah, so I think that it was my
Yeah.
40s when the body started to, I don't know, it just wasn't doing for me what I wanted it to do.
Yeah, look, it's a really good point that you make there, Sue, because um, we hit that peak in our 30s, but then what happens is we start to lose, that muscle strength in our
Yeah.
30s, and it starts to decline, and it's generally in that 40-year age bracket that we start to notice things. We might notice that we're not moving as quickly as we could, or, that we're not keeping up with the kids, or that we go to put on a pair of shoes and we think, oh, there's a bit of a niggle there in my back. Where did that come from? So it's nothing significant, but they're just small telltale signs. And we do tend to ignore them.
Mm.
But then generally, as a rule, when you hit the 50s, it seems to be that midpoint, isn't it? That center point in our lives where we go, oh, hang on a minute, I've just hit that magic age of 50. Now what I need to do is I need to really think about this. I really need to make some changes, because I'm starting to notice, maybe more of those aches and pains, or more of that sluggishness, or just even feeling, just blah, and
Yes.
you're just not sure where it's coming from. Yeah.
Mm, mm. And you're right. And like, if I compare myself now to then, I'm so much
Yep.
stronger. I'm holding myself more erect than what I did then. You start to get tired, so
Mm.
you're hunching
Yeah.
over. And if you've got a computer job, where you're at the desk all the time, you're not getting up and walking around. I would sit at my desk for a straight 8 hours. I'd quickly go to the bathroom and come back, basically. I'd eat at my desk. I had shocking work habits.
Yep.
And, so all of that. And so, yeah, I look back at photos of myself and I'm just not looking healthy, or, well, or fit, and and people would look and go, well, you look okay, but what's going on inside as well, with your body,
Yeah.
what's happening there. And so I think that's a big thing.
And so with like fitness or with health and well-being, we're not all the same shape and size. We're all different. So, what feels right to us is going to be different for somebody else. So we know our bodies better than, the person standing next to us. So we can't worry about what somebody else is saying around us. They will look at you maybe and then just go, oh, well, you're all right. What are you worrying about? But in yourself that you're feeling that little bit sluggish and not firing on all cylinders, and that you need to do something different. And that's when you take that step and you go, well, hang on a minute, it is about me and I need to do what's right for me.
That's right. You have to recognize, definitely. You have to recognize that you are important too. And I think that's what I came to realize. I'd gone through quite a few different things. Everyone has bad things that happen to them in life. And, you just, that's part of life. You sort of push through it. But sometimes you get to the point, if you've had it consistently or whatever, where you just think, I just don't know if I can keep going on. And if you're not feeling good within yourself and within your body, you just find it so much more difficult to keep going on. But you're right, people will say, oh, you're okay, but yourself, your body's saying to you, well, you're not okay, and you need to be making some changes.
Yeah, that's right. Or, you're having that day where you don't have that positive outlook that you normally do. And, people are saying, oh, you're strong and you'll get through this. And all you want to do is, pull the covers up over the top of your head. So you know how you're feeling. But, we know that when we change, when we get moving, when we do something, it changes that energy flow in our body. And when we do that, we feel so much more energized. I mean, like, I know for myself, there are mornings where I don't want to do a workout, but I've created that consistent routine of getting up and doing it at a certain time. And so I do it, but, and at the end of it, I go, oh yeah, I feel so much better now. But I didn't feel like that when I first started.
No, that's exactly right. And it's actually just making that first step, isn't it? Like sometimes people will, everybody has those days. And I think it's just a matter of, and sometimes I've heard where people say, oh, okay, I don't feel like doing anything, but I'll just do 5 minutes. And then once they've done 5 minutes, they'll find that they might end up doing 15 because they're feeling better, they're feeling more alive, and they just keep going. It's just getting into starting it, really. So, but it does make you feel so much better once you've started moving.
And there's a couple of great books in regards to habits, James Clear, Atomic Habits, and B.J. Fogg, his Tiny Habits. They're great books, and they really do talk about that. Sometimes you just give yourself, I'm just going to do one push-up. That's it, one push-up. And you do that one push-up and you look around and you go, hey, that's just ridiculous. I'm doing one push-up. I can do so much more than this. So you do that little bit more. And it's that first step. When you take that first step, it just builds that momentum. And so many people wait for momentum. Oh, I just don't feel like it. I haven't got what it takes to get it done. But it's taking the action. And I think when you know why it's important to you, well, I know that when you do know why it's important to you, and you can feel that why in your heart, then what happens is that gives you that motivation that you need to take that first step. And sometimes it can be, the doctor saying to you, you need to exercise. That's enough motivation, because otherwise, if he's saying to you, or he or she is saying to you, if you don't do this, then what's going to happen is here's the consequences for you. So tell us a little bit, Sue, about why exercise is important to you. Like, what is it that in your heart of hearts keeps you motivated to keep going?
Well, there's several reasons, because I've proven to myself that I feel good when I'm consistently exercising. If I let it go, I don't feel good within my body. I don't feel strong. I don't feel healthy. And it's sort of just become a part of life. And I experience that high at the end of it, and which we all do. And, I think that's the thing. I need it for my mental well-being. If I get, if I'm prone to getting stressed, I'm prone, like my mum, to worry and things like that. And for me, a workout, going for a run or some sort of exercise helps my mind. My husband will say to me, well, why don't you go for a run or do a workout or something if you're stressed? Because he knows that I'll come back and I'll be going, great, I feel better after that. So one, it makes me feel better. And that's for me. And two, I've got two beautiful grandsons who are 3 and 7. And look, I've got to tell you, I spent time with them over the holidays, and I mind them every week. And, I can even feel it now at my stage, and I would pride myself on being fit, but spending 2 straight days with them where they're running all over the place and you're keeping up with them, it's starting, I get tired, and I think, well, goodness, if I wasn't keeping up my exercise and workouts and that sort of thing, I wouldn't be able to keep up with them. And they expect you, they go, oh, come on, Nan, come and do this, or get on the trampoline, or let's crawl under here, or do whatever. And I don't want to be a grandma that's just sitting on the couch saying, oh, all right, off you go, or just watch the TV. So I want to be involved. But even I'm feeling myself now that, as they get older, it's difficult to keep up with them. So that's another reason that, I want to be there. And the last one is mainly health. As I mentioned before, I've got a family medical history of cancer, and, my mum, brother and dad had all died within, mid-60s. And I'm practically there now, so there's that factor, and also dad's heart issues. So it's a knowing my family history and thinking, well, maybe I can't beat things like cancer. You don't know, but maybe I can do all I can to try to be as healthy as I can, to help. Because if you don't do anything, well, I'm heading for a heart attack or something like Dad. Whereas at least if I'm doing something, there's less chance of me having that. So, and the other thing is I want to enjoy time with my husband. Before COVID, we used to be able to travel a lot, and that's the other thing. If we ever get to travel again, you want to be able to lift your suitcases and travel and not say, oh, I'll just go out for the morning and then I've got to go home for a nana nap. And, if you're traveling somewhere, you want to be out and about and see things. So that's 4 reasons really, which is why I want to keep being fit and healthy. And you learn to love it, actually. If you find things that you enjoy doing, there's a perverse nature there where you sort of, it's a bit masochistic, but you actually love it. And even though it might be tiring or you're pushing through something or whatever, you just, you do it because you love it and you enjoy it.
Yeah, yes, it is. You think I can't go anymore, but you do. You push through it and you get it done. There were some of those reasons that you gave are consistent with what I hear in the Strong Healthy Women community. So I hear, it's because of my health. So I don't want the same preventable illnesses that were in my family. The other thing is that I want to be able to play and enjoy and have the strength to be involved with my grandkids. And I know there was one woman who even took it one step further, and she actually said she wants to dance at their weddings. And that really spurred me on, because I'm hoping the nut bush is still playing, and I want to be the grandmother still doing the nut bush and outlasting everybody on that dance floor. So, and it's funny little things like that can keep you motivated. And look, and the other thing that you mentioned there, so you've got grandkids, you've got your health, but you've also got your travel. And so, just getting out and just enjoying, what's around us, whether it be close to home or whether it be further away from home, and having that strength and the fitness and the flexibility to be able to lift that luggage and do what you need to do. So, what you've done is that you've answered my next question, which is, why is having that strength so important to you? Yeah. And clearly it's because you want to be able to do the things that you're currently doing. Is there anything else you want to add on that?
Yes. Yeah, I do actually. I think it's the fact that I just feel good. I feel strong. Like sometimes I'll be walking around the apartment or whatever, and I'll just take a moment and I think, gosh, I feel great. I feel so strong. I feel my body is, sort of singing. If it sounds a bit corny, but it is. It's just feeling. It's just feeling so good. Yeah, yeah, and that comes from strength training, because I've done my running and I still run, and I've done another 3 marathons in my 60s. So, that's the other thing. I'm not by my expiry date yet, and I don't think any of us are. We don't need to have an expiration date, so you can try anything. But what I found was, starting with the strength training, which I didn't do with the first marathon, I was just running, and I didn't realize the importance of having that cross training. And so I just think that it's the strength training is just so important. But of course, people get a bit turned off because they think it's gyms, or they think it's, you're going to get bulky, or it's you got to lift heavy weights, or you've got to do this and that. I think there's a false perception of what it is. And if I could come up with a better name than strength training or resistance training, I would, because but yeah, that's why it's important to me, because I'm holding myself so much better, holding myself so much stronger. And as I said before, some days we're not feeling great, but most times I feel, even if I'm not feeling good up here, my body is feeling good and strong. And, that's why I do it.
There was something there that you said that I went, that's so good. I'm going to have to come back to it, I think.
Okay.
So,
I talked about the cross training.
Yes, it was the cross training. That was it. Because if you think about any, like, supreme athlete as such, a tennis player or a football player, cricket players, they don't just play cricket or football or tennis. They're doing all sorts of different activities to build all of the things that they need. Now, our body needs certain things. It needs strength, it needs endurance, and it needs flexibility. So, we need to have all 3 of those things covered off in our fitness routine that we do. And, if we wind the clock back to when we were talking about parents before, they had the strength, the endurance, and their flexibility, because they were bending down and lifting things up and putting them in those washing machines and then using those wringers to get them done. They'd be walking long distances because that was the only mode of transport that they had. And they were picking up all the kids, and that's the significant difference here, is when we're younger, we've got those kids, so we're getting the strength training in, but then the kids are gone, or they've got bigger and we're no longer picking them up anymore.
No, and I think that's the other issue too, where you might start off being an active kid and doing things, and these days they can do anything. They've got sports galore that they can do, but then you may get into your 20s and you're still doing that. But once you start having children, I think especially when they're little, you feel you are still being active because you're running after them, especially if they're a little toddler. You can't take your eyes off them for a moment. So you're running here, you're running there, you're picking them up, you're doing all these things. You're probably multitasking with doing washing and anything else at the same time. Then they get to the point where, they're at 7 or 8. You're not picking them up then. You're not really running after them. They're becoming more independent. And that's when I think we sort of forget that, well, okay, we're not doing all those things anymore. We've got to start bringing some sort of consistency in, or some formalized exercise to take over from that.
Yeah, it's when we get on that slippery slope, isn't it? Life changes. We finally have that time to take that breath and just go, it's not so hectic now. We take that breath, but we keep that going. We stay in that mode, as opposed to going, okay, I need to stay at that level. And it's so true. We need to look at ourselves and go, well, am I as strong and as fit as what in my 60s as I was in my 50s, or in my 50s as my 40s, and my 40s as my 30s, and so on backwards? Because if we're not, what does the future hold? So if we're not strong now, then when we get to, our 80s and 90s, then we're going to be those frail women. And I know that we don't. And I remember something that my mum said to me recently. I never imagined my life to be like this, because she's now fairly immobile. And I said, well, we never expect what our life's going to be like. But for someone who has never exercised, for someone who has never really, worried about what she's eating or her health, but if the doctor says take another pill, she takes another pill, so she rattles when she walks, but there's so much more that we can do to prevent that. And it's as simple as getting up, moving, doing some strength, some endurance and flexibility work each and every day, because it's really just going to support us, not just now. It's not, and it's going to make us feel so much better, but it's also going to be in the future that we're going to be able to see that.
You get that baseline and you're building on that, so that in the future you can still be doing things. I saw an article yesterday, I think it was, a 92-year-old lady who is still surfing.
Yes. How good's that?
Now, she might have probably been surfing all her life and things like that, and there might be people who are, haven't done anything for years. So, I suppose she's got that against, going for her. But it just shows you that you don't have to give up. You can keep doing things way into your 90s and beyond. So it's up to you, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what, Sue, I get increasingly more frustrated when I look at photos and, emails come through and, social media things in regards to, here's what your typical 60-year-old looks like, or your typical 50-year-old look like. And I go, well, hang on a minute, you haven't seen any of the women in the Strong Healthy Women community. They don't look like that. They don't act like that. They don't think they're that age. And I think it's time that, you know, social media and the general media caught up on this, and they went, you know what? You're not old and frail at 60. We're
That's
vibrant.
right. Yeah. And you know what my pet bug is, don't you? About the grandmother.
What's your
You
pet
know,
bug? Tell us.
well, you know, like with social media, they're showing a woman my mother-in-law's age, you know, in her
Yes,
90s as a grandmother. She
yes,
was a great great grandmother by then. I'm a
yeah.
grandmother and I don't think I look like that. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying
No,
um, it's not how we are these days. I mean, when my mum, well,
it's not.
mum only reached 63, but in those days when you were 50, you know, you were old. But
Yeah,
now 50, you've still got half a life ahead of you. And you know, I just think that you're right, that social media is just has it all wrong. And I think it's not promoting the way you can be or the way we are in living a healthy lifestyle. And
absolutely.
I think that's a real issue.
Oh, it totally is. You know, like I'm a grandmother of 14 kids, and I can still outrun all of those kids. I don't know how much longer that will be for, but I can still now. You know, and if I didn't have that ability, like last week, I was standing at my door and I looked out and I thought, is that filly out on the opposite side of the fence to her, you know, to the mare? And I'm looking at her and I'm going, oh, hang on, she is. And so, you know, I had to go out there and, you know, climb over the fence, try and get her back in with the mother. But what happened was the mother got out. So I've got two horses now out, and I needed to get up before they did up to the next gate to be able to shut that gate so that they didn't get out totally and end up on the road type of thing. So it's like, you know, run like crazy to get there. And I put that down to the fact that I can still do these things because I'm strength training, I'm
Yep.
doing endurance work, and, you know, I'm doing flexibility work.
Mm.
And that's what it takes. It takes
Yeah.
us to do that little bit of work.
Yeah, that's right. And it doesn't have to take hours out of your day
No,
either, you know.
no. Oh, it totally
Um,
doesn't.
I
Yeah,
just know
a
what
workout
we do.
can be 5 minutes. Yeah, it
Yeah,
can be five
yeah.
minutes. Absolutely, it can be. All right, Sue, let's wrap it up. Tell me what you love about the Strong Healthy Women studio when you're working out in FitFlex. What do you love about that?
Okay, well, first of all, I like the program because it has what you've just said. It's got the
Mm-hmm.
strength, it's got the endurance, it's got the flexibility. So if I don't
Yeah,
have time to fit one or the other in, I get it all together in the one workout. And if you know, that's
yeah,
3 days a week, and then there's a couple of fast fit sessions that you've got as well. So I like that it's like a one-stop shop for me.
yeah.
I'm fairly busy, even though I'm retired. I've got lots of things that I do. So, and also I'm not a gym person. I don't like going to the gym. So this works for me
Yeah.
because one, it's online. So I can just
Mm,
get on and be in with the group. You know, that's what I like too. I
yeah.
can see the ladies and be in with the group, but then I can work out myself. I'm not sort of, you know, you have a bit of a chat at the beginning, but then we get in and I get the workout done. So I like that because it's saving me time getting to, you know, if I was to go out, I'd,
Traveling.
you know, have to, you know, you're probably saving at least half an hour to an hour travel time and all that sort of
Yeah.
thing. And, you know, and then if you think you've got to go, you sort of think, oh, I don't feel like going out. Whereas with this, I could probably turn the camera off. I wouldn't because you've got to
Yeah.
see me, but you know, you could probably do it in your pajamas if you want to. So I like
Good.
it for that. But also if I can't make like I can't make Wednesdays because I have my grandsons, but because you also put a copy up, you know, of the video online, I can
Yep.
work out then in my own time. So I've got no excuse
Yeah.
really, because, you know, I like that flexibility. And as I said, I like being able to work in a group, but also being able to get my own workout done, because when you're in a group class, everyone's at different levels, and
Yeah.
they've, you know, and so what I like is that people can be working at their own pace, challenging themselves, not worrying what next door's doing, you know,
Mhm.
not worrying that that person might get out 20 reps and you might get out 10. It's I
Yeah.
like the fact that we can all work at our own pace and our own level and still be
Yeah.
challenged by the trainers. So that's what I like about it.
I've got a confession to make. When you said that you could do it in your PJs if you like, one Saturday morning I was doing a flex session, a live one, and I was honest when I got in there. I did do it in my PJs that morning, because I went, oh, I'm just doing it in my PJs today.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So,
it was a
you know,
cruisy morning.
yeah, but
Yeah.
that's the thing, you know, you only need to get up 10 minutes if you want to before the class starts and you're there,
Yeah.
rather than having to get up, you know, at least half an hour before, get ready, go, come back. And that,
Yeah.
you know, that could be a whole morning gone in that time. Whereas, you know, 50 minutes, within an hour, it's all done and dusted. So
Yeah, exactly.
that suits me.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap up. I want to wrap up with one piece of advice. What is the one piece of advice that you want to give to women about, you know, aging well, or any other piece of advice that you want to share?
Okay, well, I think that in terms of, you know, just thinking about yourself, it's not selfish, okay? So you've got to think about you and your
Mm-hmm.
needs, and that includes your body and your health. So if you're thinking, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that, just start. It doesn't matter whether you're good or bad at whatever it is. If you just start and take those little steps, as you mentioned before, those little baby steps, working towards something, you're going to surprise yourself, really, because as we said, with anything, you think, oh, I don't think I can do that. But if you try it, you'll surprise yourself. And yeah, you may not be great at it in the beginning, but no one is when they're a beginner. You have to start from somewhere. But I think realizing that you are important, you are of value, your health and well-being is so important for you to be able to be nurturing to others in your circle, you know, in your love, your family, and that sort of thing. And don't be afraid. Just take that step to start. And once you start, I mean, with my running, I couldn't run between one lamppost and the next one. But these young girls got me and they said, come on. And, you know, it was a bit of a couple of steps and then a bit of a jog and then a couple of steps and a bit of a jog, until each week I just kept getting better. Same as weights. I couldn't lift any weights up. And now, you know, you improve. So don't let that stop. Don't let fear hold you back.
I really like that. There's a lot that you said in that. But there is one thing that I think is important in it, and you mentioned it just right there at the end, is that who you're hanging out with, those girls, they're younger than you.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that when a lot of the centurions have been asked about, you know, what is it that helps them live so much longer, and there's lots of things that they say, and movement is one thing that's been consistently said. But the other aspect of it was to hang around with people that are younger than you, because they keep you younger. And
Exactly.
that's a really, really good, strong piece of advice. But there is one thing that I want to finish up with, ladies, and that is the habit, goal getting and habit stacking guide. Because when Sue was talking there, I realized, with your habits that you're talking about and why it's important to you, it doesn't have to be something that's big. It can be one thing that you're going to do each day. And it could be as simple as, I'm going to drink 1 glass of water every morning when I wake up. It might be something as simple as that. Or it could be that I'm going to do 10 jumping jacks when I make my bed. So it doesn't matter what it is, but it is taking the action. And that's a great piece of advice, is to don't let fear hold you back. Just take that step forward, take the action and get it done. So thanks, Sue, for joining me today. That was fabulous.
Yeah, thank you for having me. We always seem to be able to find something to chat about, don't we?
We do. We absolutely do always find something to talk about. All right, ladies, so I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to put a link up to this guide for anybody who wants that as well too. And if you absolutely love listening to Sue and I have a little natter here, what you can do is spread the love out to other people and share it around the place with others. You'll also find Sue over on her podcast, which is Women Living Well After 50, is it?
Yes,
did I get it right? I did. Okay. And I've been on Sue's podcast show a couple of times, so you can go find me on that as well too. All right, ladies, thank you so much, and we will see you all soon. Thanks, Sue. See you then.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.